Hi everyone. Today we are going to start the first chapter of second semester, and title of the chapter is Introduction. Actually, in this paper we are going to introduce about two different groups of plants. Out of that, one is cryptogam and the other two groups are there included under phanerogams. So in this present chapter we are going to learn about introduction to plant diversity. Under that we are going to study pteridophytes, then another group of plants, that is phanerogams, and under that we are going to study about gymnosperms and angiosperms. So let us start with the chapter. So let's study biological diversity. So three different definitions of biodiversity or biological diversity are given in this slide. Out of that you can learn the first definition of biological diversity. Biological diversity, or it is abbreviated as biodiversity, is variety of life on earth. So there are different kind of organisms are there all over the earth, that is called as a biodiversity, which includes plants, which includes animals, which includes bacteria, which includes fungi. So there is a diverse of organism, diversity of big number of organism is there, that is called as a biological diversity. Another definition is given there. It comprises variability within species, among species and of ecosystems. Which means what? There are different species, there are among one species there are again diversities. Say for example, if you consider mango, then in mango there are different varieties, so that is called as a species diversity. And even there is differences in ecosystems that we will see in the next slide. Another definition of biological diversity is given, that it also refers to the complex relationships among living things and between living things and their environment. So here you can see biological diversity. All these plants are given in this picture and they are different from one another, and this difference actually is called as biological diversity. Here you can learn about different types of plant biodiversity. First is genetic diversity, where you can see maize cobs are there, and every cob has different colors of the seeds, and these changes in the colors, these differences in the colors due to differences in the genes, and that is called as a genetic diversity. In this second picture you can see there are different species of plants are given, and each species is different from one another. Even here you can see the snail. So all these are the plants. Here insect you can see, here snail you can see. So these are different species, and this is actually called as a species diversity. And in the third picture you can see ecosystem diversity. This is aquatic ecosystem, this is aquatic ecosystem, this is terrestrial ecosystem, and here you can see different trees. So tree ecosystem is there. So there are differences in ecosystems, there are differences in species, and there are differences in genetic diversity also. Now we'll move to the next part of the chapter that we are going to deal with, and the first group of organism, that is pteridophytes. Actually this group of organism is belonging to cryptogams. Why? Because this group of organism is do not producing flowers. So let us understand what pteridophytes are. The term pteridophyte is originated from two Greek words. Among that, the first word is pteron, which means fern or feather like. If you look into this picture, it is looking like that of a feather of a bird. So the word actually pteron is taken from Greek language. Plus another word is there, that is phyton, which in English means plant. So this pteron and phyton came together and developed another word that is called as a pteridophyte, which is called as a feather-like or fern-like looking plants. These plants are called as pteridophytes. Pteridophytes are actually non-flowering, that is cryptogamic plants, and vascular plants. Why these plants are called as a vascular plants? Because they contain a proper vascular system. That's why they are called as vascular plants. Hence, they may also be defined as vascular cryptogams. Means they are cryptogamic plants, non-flowering plants with proper vascular system, so that they are also called as a vascular cryptogams. They are represented by about 400 genera and about 10,000 to 12,000 species, including both living plants as well as fossil forms. Some of the fossils of pteridophytes are also there, and example of fossil pteridophyte is Rhynia, and most of the living pteridophytes we are also going to study in next few slides. Pteridophytes are earliest known vascular plants which are originated in Silurian period. Remember this word, pteridophytes are originated in Silurian period, which is 400 million years ago of Paleozoic era. So era is Paleozoic era and period is Silurian period. Subsequently, they are diversified and formed the dominant vegetation on Earth during Devonian to Permian period. So Devonian to Permian period, these are the periods where actually they spread all over the Earth and they conquered the Earth and they increased their diversity considerably. The pteridophytes grow in diverse habitats. Mostly they show terrestrial habits, growing in moist, cool and shady places. This characteristic is very important. They generally like to grow where the place is moist, where the place is cool and it is shady. So shady places means what? In dense forest, wherever there is availability of great moisture in soil, then place is cool with respect to temperature and continuous shade conditions are there. Such places are best for the growth of pteridophytes, and actually such places where pteridophyte grow very well because all ecological requirements getting fulfilled in such type of places. All pteridophytes required water for transfer of sperms to ovum to complete the process of sexual reproduction. Actually, the spermatozoid of pteridophyte is there and which actually swims in water, and through the water current it can move from one place to another place and it find the ovum, actually niche of the archegonium, and through which passing these cover cells and niche it reaches to the ovule and it completes the sexual reproduction. So water is one of the essential factors for the sexual reproduction. A few members are aquatic. These are the examples: Azolla, Isoetes, Marsilia and Salvinia. These are four examples of pteridophytes which are aquatic in nature. Some of the pteridophytes are xerophytic in nature and their examples are Selaginella. Then another species of Selaginella is there, Selaginella rupestris. Then Equisetum arvens. These are the three different species: Selaginella lepidophylla, Selaginella rupestris, Equisetum arvens. These are the examples of xerophytic pteridophytes. Many are epiphytic. Epiphytic means they are growing on another plant. They do not draw nutrition from the host plant, but they just take support of any host plant where either living or dead branch is there, and these include Lycopodium phlegmaria, Selaginella oregana, Ophioglossum vulgatum, Polypodium, Drineria, Pleopeltis, etc. These are the ferns which are growing on the branches of the trees. Let's learn about sporophyte. So plant body is called as sporophyte because plant body produce spores, and actually spores are growing to develop prothallus, that is called as a gametophyte. So in their lifespan the plant is producing spore, and hence that is called as sporophyte. Now let's learn about different characters. The major plant body is nutritionally independent sporophyte, which is differentiated into root, stem and leaves. But some of the primitive members do not have true roots or leaves, and the plants who do not produce roots and leaves include Rhynia, Cooksonia and Xylotum. Xylotum is a living form of Pteridophytes. The sporophyte develops from the diploid zygote. The primary roots are ephemeral and subsequently replaced by the adventitious roots. So initially, ephemeral means what? Initially these primary roots are ephemeral, small, and they are going to change in next part of their lifespan. So here it is mentioned subsequently they are replaced by adventitious roots. But in primitive forms roots are altogether absent. Instead of roots there are rhizoids. These are the examples: Rhynia, Cooksonia and Xylotum. The stem is generally branched, either dichotomously branched or monopodial. So two different kinds of branches are there. When we will study this chapter in detail, at that time you will know what dichotomous branching is there and what monopodial branching is there. The leaves may be simple, small and sessile. Sessile and small leaves are there in Lycopodium and Selaginella. These leaves are scale-like in Equisetum, and another example you can take, that is Xylotum. The leaves are compound, large and petiolate as in ferns. For example, Pteris, Maracea, Nephrolepis, where compound type of leaves can be seen. Here you can see two different types of sporophytes. One is there that is eusporangiate, and another is there that is called as a leptosporangiate. Now what is eusporangiate? When sporangia are developed from group of different cells. Here you can see sporangia. Here you can see sporangia. If you look into this back side of this leaf, there are sporangia. So when these type of sporangia are developed from a group of cells, means what? This sporangium, individual sporangium, this individual sporangium is developed from different cells together. Means this single sporangium is contributed by many cells. Then that is called as a eusporangiate. On the other hand, you can see leptosporangiate means what? Sporangia are developed from single cell, and that is actually superficial sporangial initial. Means when sporangium is developed from one cell, that is called as a leptosporangiate, and when it is developed from different cells together, that is called as eusporangiate pteridophyte. Now let's study about gametophyte. Now sporophyte is actually dominant phase of life cycle because it is producing spores. Now the question is there, what is gametophyte? So gametophyte is a lifespan of pteridophytic plant which is developed by growth of sporophyte. So sporophyte is dominant phase, and one spore germinate and grows, and after proper growth there is development of gametophyte in which the sex organs are embedded. Male sex organ is called as antheridium and female sex organ is called as archegonium which is present within the gametophyte. But this gametophytic phase of pteridophyte is short-lived, very small time span, and after fertilization again there is a germination and development of sporophyte. So this development is in cyclic manner. So let's learn about that. The spores germinate to form haploid gametophytes, or that is called as a prothallus. Prothalli, that is plural. We can see the picture of this in the next slide, but before that we'll learn few of the characteristics of gametophyte. The gametophytes of pteridophytes are small and inconspicuous. Inconspicuous again means small as compared to sporophyte. Sporophyte is actually big plant and gametophyte is small part of that. The gametophytes are of two types. In homosporous forms, homosporous form means what? When all spores produced by plant are of same size, that is called as a homosporous form. The development of gametophyte is exosporic. Exosporic means what? In which the prothallus develops outside the spore wall. Means if spore is of small size, it grows big, and that is called as a exosporic. On the other hand, gametophyte that develop from heterospores are endosporic. Now what is heterosporous? When a pteridophytic plant produces two different kind of spores. Small spores are called as a microspores and large spores are called as megaspores. So when it is developed these two kinds, that is called as heterosporous pteridophyte, and these heterosporous pteridophytes are actually endosporic. Endosporic means what? The prothallus is developing within the spore. It do not grow out of the spore. So if spore is small, but if it is growing big, then that is called as exosporic. When spore is small and gametophyte is developed within the spore, then that is called as endosporic. So remember, exosporic growing out, endosporic growing within. And the last characteristic is there, that sex organs are antheridium, that is male, and archegonium, that is female sex organ. Here you can see the gametophyte on the fern, which is heart shaped, and here small rhizoids are also there, and these dots you can see, these all dots, small dots are there. These are actually antheridia, which is actually male reproductive structure, and here some oval shaped structures you can see, these are archegonia, and these are present within the gametophyte. So these antheridia produce male gamete, archegonia produce female gamete, and after fusion the reproductive spore will form, that grow into the sporophyte. So when we will study about pteridophytes in detail, at that time we are going to study in detail. Then fertilization. The disintegration of neck canal cell also produces a mucilaginous substance which contains organic compounds like malic and fumaric acid. These substances act as sperm attractant. Water is one of the essential factors for the fertilization, and sperms actually swim over a thin film of water and getting attracted chemotactically towards the archegonium. Actually archegonium of the fern, these are secreting, the neck canal cells are secreting some chemicals, and these chemicals attract the sperm. So when sperm is attracted by archegonium, then what happens? The anthrozoid and egg of haploid chromosome number fuse to form a diploid zygote. So the anthrozoid, that is male reproductive structure, and egg, which is female reproductive structure, this anthrozoid enters to the egg, and there is development of diploid zygote, which is mother cell of sporophytic generation. So this diploid zygote divides meiotically, and later on each individual spore grows into the sporophytic plant. Here you can see the sporophyte diversity. This is what I said you about xylotum, which is without leaves. You cannot see the leaves. This is stem, and this is what dichotomously branching, that what I said earlier. We can see that in details also. And here yellow colored reproductive structures you can see, that is called as a synangia. Another example is there, that is lycopodium, where branching is monopodial, and here you can see their strobilus or cones. Another example is there, that is Selaginella, where again the branches is monopodial, but here they are always bifurcated, and that is called as a dichotomy. So xylotum, lycopodium, Selaginella. This is the most primitive pteridophyte, and then actually evolution started. This is Nephrolepis, a very common form that you can see in botanical gardens. This is also a kind of fern that is called as a pteris. This also is grown in botanical gardens as ornamental plant. This is equisetum. Here actually once it is mature there is development of cone, but here as this is very young, the cones are not yet developed, and this plant is actually a gold indicator. It grows in such kind of soil where there is a huge amount of gold is present. And another example of pteridophyte, that is there Marsilia. Actually this is aquatic pteridophyte, and their leaves are compound. Here you can see quadrifoliate leaves are there, and the reproductive organs are there. They are in the form of sporocarps like this. Here some structures you can see. So somewhere the sporocarps are developed. So this is just an introduction about pteridophytes with respect to plant diversity. We are going to study these in details when we will start this chapter. This is just the introductory part with respect to diversity and diversity of pteridophytes. In the next lecture we will learn about Phanerogams. Thank you.